This week, Reverend Wendy's series, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, continues. In this talk, Reverend Wendy tells us about how the lies we tell ourselves shape our professional lives. This talk offers a deeper exploration of how lies like "there's a perfect time" and others lead us to places of lack and limitation.
So we have been exploring the last couple of weeks the idea of the lies that we tell ourselves. The lies we tell ourselves. In the first lesson, we took a look at the lies we tell ourselves personally. Last week, the lies we tell ourselves relationally. And today we're going to look at the lies we tell ourselves professionally. The lies we tell ourselves professionally. When I first started this series and I commented to you that there was a little bit of an interesting response from you when we announced I was going to do a series on lies, and we talked a bit about how that very word for some has a bit of a charge, the idea of lying, because we know how important it is to tell the truth, right? We want to live as honorable, ethical individuals. And a few of our members came forward and said to me, but you know, even though that word is kind of charged, sometimes it's important for us to look at why it's charged and get comfortable with it, get so that it's not such a stabby, chargy kind of word. So if you're in that space, you can look at it that way. If it charges you, you can say, okay, where am I going to grow with this? Or you can just choose to use a different word. Maybe call it a story or a myth. The point that we're trying to get at is remembering how powerful our minds are, that our brains are like this amazing recording device. And whatever we consistently and habitually say to ourselves in the privacy and quiet of our mind, whatever we keep saying again and again, whatever we keep thinking over and over, becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, more deeply rooted, and we begin to believe it heart and soul, whether it is true or not. And we're the kind of people, I believe, that want to be in a space where we are directing our thinking, in a space where we are putting into our consciousness that which we want to build into our lives. Am I right about that? That we really believe that we are capable of co-creating our life experience through the power of our mind and our heart and our soul with this presence and power that we call God. So we want to be looking at how do we do that better, and sometimes the way that we do that is we look at what are the mistakes that we are making. What are the mistakes in thinking that we are making? Because the lies or stories that we tell ourselves, whether it is a lie or the truth, absolutely shape our lives. They are powerful. They shape what we say yes to, and they shape what we say no to. They shape how we greet one another. They shape how we respond to opportunities and how we meet our challenges. One of our new board members shared with us yesterday, we had a board meeting and we were doing a bit of checking in. And we were talking a little bit about this kind of message. And our board member said, you know, I took the lies that you've been telling us, and as a family we sat down and we flipped them. And instead of them being lies, we wrote statements of truth, affirmations. And we wrote them down on paper and put them around the house and are challenging ourselves to read them to ourselves and to read them out loud, so we begin to really train ourselves and our minds in the direction that we want to go. Now, there's a little bit of danger when we get that public with something like that, even in our families, because what do you expect starts to happen when we do that? We get caught. That is certainly something that can happen. In other words, when we say this is what we're trying to move into and hold and be, and we share that with another, then as soon as we don't, hopefully it's always a gentle reminder, hey, wait a minute, we're not sounding like what we said we wanted to be practicing. And so again, it's the way that we can move into this greater truth and really anchor it into our lives. So I want to share with you 5 lies, 5 myths, 5 stories we tell ourselves around profession. First lie is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. How many of you have heard that? Raise your hand. How many of you have said that? Probably most of us. If at first you don't succeed, try again. It sounds really good, doesn't it? It sounds really good. Now stay with me because it's not completely true. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting what? Different results. Expecting different results. So this is not quite true. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I am by nature a pretty darn tenacious person. God has really got to tell me no before I will stop trying. But man, I know if what I have tried does not work, I'm not going to give up, but I've got to try something a little bit different. Whether it's a different attitude, whether it's a different approach, but I can't do it exactly the same way I did it and expect it to suddenly produce a different result. I remember when our son Jonathan was just learning to walk, and you remember, right? You remember, if you're a parent, you remember your child or your children learning to walk, and they were really wobbly, right? Very wobbly at first, and they have all these wonderful little push toys to kind of stabilize them and help them. And I remember it vividly. Jonathan had a push toy he loved. The bottom of it was shaped like a bright red fire engine. And he would hold this as he was kind of still trying to learn to walk with greater skill and confidence. And he would walk all the way to the wall and keep trying to walk. And you could just see this little, he'd pull the fire engine back a bit and he'd push it again. He's going to deny this. He's going to say, I don't remember that, Mom. He was too young, but I remember it. Pushing that thing. Try again. If at first you don't succeed, try. The wall never moved. As cute as that little guy was, the wall never moved. If what you have been doing in your life personally, professionally, relationally hasn't worked, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Ask God, ask Spirit, what do I need to tweak? What do I need to change? Is it an attitude? Is it an approach? Is it an idea? And be open to what Spirit would say to you. I really believe that when we ask God, Spirit, whatever name you are most comfortable with, when we ask and we're willing to listen, we will be guided and directed. But our job is to ask and then shut up and listen. Second lie. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. It's kind of similar to the previous one, but practice does not make perfect. Only perfect practice makes perfect. Right? Only perfect practice makes perfect. When you're learning to play an instrument, you hit a lot of bad notes, right? You can't read the music right. Maybe the rhythm isn't right. If it's piano, maybe your fingers are fumbling all along. And if you keep practicing exactly that same way, you're not going to produce a perfect piece of music, are you? Or anywhere near close to that. Only perfect practice makes perfect. So what it means is, again, looking at every time we do something and it's not quite right, not beating ourselves up for it, but stepping back and learning from it. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to do differently? Have you noticed how some folks practice being miserable and have gotten really good at it? Remember that adorable little boy on the video we saw a few weeks back, challenging us, asking us, what are you practicing? Because it's going to become more and more consistent. And if you want excellence, then you've got to learn from the places that you're practicing and you're not getting the result you want. What are you going to change? So there was a congregant who went to his Unity minister because he wanted some support for some healing. And the minister gave him an affirmation, a very simple one, and it was, I am a child of God, and I am vibrantly healthy. I am a child of God and I am vibrantly healthy. Say that with me. I am a child of God and I am vibrantly healthy. And he told the congregant, go home and at least 20 times every day, I want you to affirm that. I am a child of God and I am vibrantly healthy. Congregant came back the next week and no improvement whatsoever. And so the minister said, have you been practicing the affirmation? He said, well, yeah, I kind of started with it, but every time I would do it, I would lose track and I'd lose count, and eventually I just gave up. Well, the minister didn't give up. The minister said, here. He took out a piece of ribbon, tied 20 knots on it, gave him the piece of ribbon, and he said, now you won't lose count. Now go home and do what I told you to do. I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy. Say it with me. I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy. He comes back the next week and he looks worse than on week 1. And the minister says, have you been using the affirmation? He said, yes, faithfully. Every single day, exactly as you have told me. I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy. The minister's thinking, I know this works. What's going on? Show me what you're doing. And so he takes out his piece of ribbon and he says to the minister, I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy, not. I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy, not. I am a child of God. I am vibrantly healthy, not. His mind was obeying, and so was his body. We teach that we've got to be vigilant. Vigilant. What is it that we are practicing? And if you really want to know what you're practicing, look at what consistently is showing up in your life experience. And I say that not to cause any discomfort, but we need to be real with ourselves and honest with ourselves. The overall quality of our life experience is going to reflect what it is we keep practicing in consciousness. If we keep practicing fear in consciousness, we're going to have a very different overall quality of life experience and relationships and opportunities than if we are practicing, holding, and feeling the quality of faith, for example. You may recall that in our meditation time, I invited you just to hold a positive feeling. And the truth of the matter is, any one of us can do that at any time, no matter what is going on around us. We can still step into and create out of volition, out of choice, the quality that we want to be experiencing within. That's what we want to practice. The third lie, there's a perfect time to do it. There's a perfect time to do it. Now, I don't want to suggest that timing should never be looked at. I'm not suggesting that. But I also know that that can be a very slippery lie and a very slippery myth. This belief that there's got to be a perfect time to do it. Only we can be rigorously honest and truthful with ourselves to know if the reason we are postponing something is because it truly is not the right time, or if we are postponing it for some other reason. And what I want to say is, if we're going to grow and evolve and co-create the life we want to experience, we've got to be very honest with ourselves. Too often we look at someday as if someday was a day in the week. It is not Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and someday. Right? It's not. We have a task management program that the staff uses, and I love it with one exception. It allows you to designate someday as a time due date for a task. That is dangerous on so many levels. On so many levels. There is not, in many things, there is not a perfect time to do it. We need to step back and ask ourselves, why am I putting it off? And most of the time, what do you think is the reason we put it off? We're afraid. I remember how many times I thought I was going to start the Unity Center, and then I figured, no, it's not a perfect time. Nope, that's not a good Sunday to start. No, that's not a good month to start. A friend of mine kept saying to me, you are so miserable where you are doing what you're doing as an associate. You need to go off and go do this on your own. You need to figure out how to do that. I waited a long time. And I waited a long time, not because, truthfully, not because there was any such thing as a perfect time. It was I was too afraid. Sometimes it's not anything about the timing, it's about something inside of us has to shift. And maybe it's as simple as acknowledging the fear, and like that great classic book says, feel the fear and, boy, you are right there with me. I like this quote, all some people ever manage to do is safely tiptoe to their graves. I don't want to be that kind of person. Do you want to be that kind of person? No, all right. And a fourth lie, the grass is always on the other side of the fence. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. It probably looks that way because maybe it's been watered. And maybe we're neglecting to water ours. Maybe we're neglecting to water ours. I am a strong proponent of the value of spiritual partnerships. And I believe it is in part what the Buddha meant and spoke so passionately about, the idea of Sangha, the idea of spiritual community. That to me is a way that we water our souls. There's a lot that you and I can do spiritually to feed ourselves and to grow individually. And believe me, I know that because I am for the longest time, very much an individual person. But there is something that we can experience together that supports our spiritual growth that we cannot achieve all by ourselves. We touch it a tiny little bit when we are in community and we pray and we meditate together. And we feel that added something that we just don't feel in the same way when we do our quiet work all by ourselves. Jesus talked about that. It's the essence and the meaning when he said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. That the mystical metaphysical message of that is touching on this idea of Sangha, that when we come together with people of like mind and heart, there is a certain nurturing that happens within the soul, and our grass becomes really green, really, really green. It's a little bit like that quote, we sometimes, we can get discouraged if we look somewhere else and we think, oh boy, that marriage looks nicer than mine, or that business proposition looks nicer than mine, or that career looks nicer than mine. We have to be really careful that we're not comparing our behind the scenes with their highlight reel, right? We never really know what's going on behind the scenes for another person or even another organization. So watch it when that feeling of comparison, that feeling of, oh, it's better over there comes up. Really stop yourself and challenge yourself to go deeper with it and ask, is that really true? Or is there something I'm not doing on my side of the fence, so to speak, that I know I need to be doing? Whether that is to reach out and have those in a community such as this be my spiritual soul partners and prayer partners, or something entirely different. But what is it that I need to do to take care of the grass on my side of the fence? And the fifth lie is not going to be one that you're going to recognize. It's more a story that I think many people live within. And it's a harmful story. And it's a story that I lived within without even realizing I was until somebody pointed it out to me many years ago. And it is this: I have to solve all the problems before I make the decision. I have to solve all the problems before I make the decision. Think about some important decisions you've had to make in your life. Maybe you're at a place right now where there's a really important decision you're contemplating. And maybe there are several possibilities. There usually are, right? We can drive ourselves crazy when we're trying to evaluate what to do if we spend all of our time trying to figure out the problems associated with decision A, decision B, decision C. So what is the alternative? The alternative is teasing apart the decision-making from the problem-solving. It was Howard Kelly, he's no longer on the planet, but it was Howard Kelly, a church development consultant that I worked with many, many years ago now, who first said this to me when we and the board were struggling with the decision we had to make in expanding another facility that we were in. And there were two possible answers to the problem that were very obvious. One required a lot more time, effort, and money, and the other would have been very simple and easy. The one that required a lot more time, effort, and money was clearly the better choice. But it was really tempting to do this one over here. And I kept waffling back and forth and wanting to justify this one over here and telling Howard all the reasons, all the problems. And boy, I am really good at identifying problems. That's a mixed blessing. Really good at I identified problems with that he didn't even think of. And he finally said to me, Wendy, if you could solve all the problems, what would you do? And I was so mad at him for asking me that. I was really angry at him for asking me that. I said, well, obviously I would do that. He said, then let's do that. Let's stop spending all the time trying to figure out all the problems. Make the decision, and then you're going to free up the energy so that you will be able to solve the problems that are inherent in that particular situation or that particular opportunity. It was one of, and remains to me, one of the most powerful pieces of advice because I was living under the myth. I have to figure out all of the how before I can say yes to the what. That is the biggest way to squelch your soul's dreams than anything else. You are here for a divine purpose, and I don't mean just in this very room. But you are here for a divine purpose, and there is something that you are meant to be expressing and doing. It doesn't have to be grand and big or public, but if you are not doing whatever that something is, and if you are not being whatever you are meant to be, you will always feel that something deep is missing in your heart and soul. And I bet you the reason that you hesitate to go full bore into whatever that is because there is a part of you that is afraid, and there's a part of you that feels, I gotta have it all figured out before I say yes to it. And I say yes to it now, and then open your consciousness, open your spirit and soul to being guided to how the what or how the how is going to be answered. Does that make sense? Okay, all righty. So quick review. The myths, the lies. Number one, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Is that true? No. Second, practice makes perfect. Is that true? No, only perfect practice makes perfect. Number three, there's a perfect time to do it. Is that true? Probably not. No. Number four, the grass is greener on the other side. They're watering it over there. And number five, I gotta solve all the problems before I can figure out the what. No way. No way. You do have to solve them eventually, but figure out the what first. God bless you.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.